So my name is Nicole Smith. I am the Event and Communications Coordinator for Spark Niagara, and this is one of our weekly webinars. We are so happy to have you join us. We love being able to invest into entrepreneurs and help them to grow, and this is part of what we do. We do this in partnership with, of course, the South Niagara Chambers of Commerce, as well as the Niagara Falls Small Business Enterprise Center. All of us enjoy being able to invest in small businesses and entrepreneurs, and so the partnership just, of course, makes sense that way. I'm so excited to have with us Rahi, and I'm not even going to attempt the last name because I already know that you're going to laugh at me because I'm going to say it completely wrong, so I will let you do that yourself. But he is here today. He's the CEO of The Big Leaf, and he is here today to teach us and tell us all about how to build a better business proposal and how to actually make it so that it's successful, and all the secrets that are involved in doing that. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Rahi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here. Again, thank you everyone for joining me. I am here as a seasoned consultant and someone who's been working on business planning and proposals for many years. So let's get right into it. How to plan for a better business proposal. Thank you again, South Niagara Chambers of Commerce, Niagara Falls, Canada, and Spark, and to the rest of our team at thebigleaf.com for helping me with this presentation. So why are you here? What you see in front of you right now is a typical set of requirements for a business proposal if you look online. There are a lot of great sources that will basically tell you to fill in these 9 boxes and make your business proposal out of these 9 boxes. Sometimes they will even recommend using tools like the business model canvas or the value proposition canvas. And I'm not here to talk about these particular models. These particular models are not very entrepreneurial, and they are what I would call default. This is the bare minimum that you can do as an entrepreneur when developing your business proposal. We're here to take you from par or bare minimum to exception. So that's why you're here. Why would you listen to me? Well, my background, my education is in entrepreneurship. I have a Bachelor of Commerce from the Ted Rogers School of Management. That's why it's listed there twice. I got my Master of Science in Management from, again, Ted Rogers School of Management and the Yates Graduate School. My Master of Science in Management was also in entrepreneurship and strategy. So I've had many years of not just working with entrepreneurs, being an entrepreneur, but also learning about entrepreneurship in an academic environment. I recently, well, a few years ago, I received my CMC designation. That's the Certified Management Consulting. It's the highest designation for consulting in the world. And it's one of the more difficult ones to get into because not only do you have to have a specialty, but you have to have a clear and comprehensive understanding of all of the components in business, not just a particular specialty that you might be in. I'm a seasoned entrepreneur. I had a solar energy research and development company where we worked on decentralized urban solar farms. I've been consulting for small, medium, and once in a while large enterprises for over 15 years now, and in a variety of industries ranging from manufacturing to retail to IT. And recently I have dabbled in education technology as well as investments. In a management position, I have not only been managing teams of consultants and teams of professionals in the various roles that I've had, but I have made it my goal to make friends with every member of the team that I've been working with. And except for one person, so far so good. I'm kidding. So I've been a leader as well for the company that I'm working for right now, which is called NoQuest. We've quadrupled their share price, restructured the company, we've negotiated funding, we've hired and fired staff, we've developed an entire new platform, we've validated on multiple levels, we've restructured the company so that it is now 4 times larger in terms of its market cap I'm sorry, it's 5 times larger in terms of its market cap, and the share price has gone up 4 times as well. And as a planner, I've been business planning for over a decade and a half. Opportunity spotting is a necessary component of business planning, and doing analyses on industries and markets of various kinds, again, at various levels, I've been doing for more than 15 years. And developing a meaningful, validated value proposition as well. And all of that really culminates in my consulting company, The Big Leaf, which you can see at the very bottom. We are at 12 members right now strong at The Big Leaf, and we have a wide variety of consultants that work on different kinds of jobs. So this is my first interpretation of the very first slide that I showed you with the 9 boxes that everybody wants you to fill out. This is not what we're going to talk about today in terms of the structure, but I wanted to show you how complex and potentially tedious and intimidating it can be to develop a proper business proposal. You need to know about your opportunity. You need to make it clear. You need to communicate it clear. No ambiguity. You have to understand the metrics of your industry. You need to understand the metrics of your market. You need to validate that opportunity on multiple levels, maybe with multiple stakeholders. And you need to communicate that clearly and keep it objective as well. You need to have excellent planning skills. You need to be able to take your opportunity and your validation and turn that into a plan that's executable, that has quality management principles built in, and that uses, at the very least, the best practices in your industry, not including any kind of innovation that you're adding. You then have to test, which is a further level of validation, your plan. Your plan is only as good as how well it's executed. And rather than executing at full force from the beginning, you're better off to test it in components to mitigate your risk. You need to develop innovation. You need to create real value. It's not enough to add value to the customer along the value chain or the supply chain. You need to create value through innovation so that you stand out and that your business proposal stands out as well. Investors are looking for value creation and assets that can generate revenues and value. Okay? Your internal capability must reflect the requirements of all the previous steps. So if you don't have the right team, you could have the greatest idea in the world, and it's really not going to go anywhere. And you don't want that to be the weak spot in your business proposal. You want to demonstrate your ability to pick the right plan, the right people, and the right opportunity. Okay? And obviously your profit margins, your pro formas, all of that, and the investment details as well. All of that has to go into a proposal, and it can be very tedious if you look at it like this, or even in the other slide here, if you look at it like this. There's no structure here. Here there's a little bit more structure, but it's still kind of sort of, let's say, hodgepodge. Now let's turn this into a model that we can follow and that simplifies our lives, as well as the lives of the investors reading our proposal, frankly. Let's use what I call the COP model. COP stands for Knowledge, Opportunity, Plan. So why do I use this COP model? Well, the COP model follows the business planning methodology, and the business planning methodology is relatively simple. It says that a business plan or proposal needs to follow a logical argument, an argument that is not only credible, logical, cogent, comes from qualified information and quality sources, reliable sources, but one in which the conclusion is reached by the readers before the author reaches that conclusion. You want your readers, your investors to say, you should be doing this. And when they turn the page, that's exactly what you're putting in front of them. They're buying into your proposal before you actually make the proposal. Okay, so it's a little different than, let's say, the MBA model of case writing, where you say problem, solution, then you go into the details. This is a little bit more of a, here's the problem, here's where the most value is, and that's where the reader comes to the conclusion, and then you speak about the conclusion thereafter. So you need to have and to communicate that you have clear understanding of your industry and your markets, you have reliable information, credible sources, you have done a comprehensive analysis, and that your conclusions are uncontroversial. the most dangerous thing you can have in a proposal is a controversial conclusion, because you're going to lose a major part of your audience. Okay, they should agree with you on your potential value and your potential opportunity. What they don't have to agree with you on is whether or not it has been validated. That's a different step. Or whether or not that has any particular value that you think that it has. That's a whole other level. The second part of the COP model is opportunity. You need to be able to spot opportunities at multiple levels. You need to be able to identify the overall opportunity. You need to validate and create a value proposition analysis and actually develop that value proposition. The last step, of course, is the planning phase, where you need to create marketing plans, operations plans, financial plans, traction plans, expansion plans, investment plans, and demonstrate team competency. Can your team carry out what it is that you're claiming they can carry out? So let's go a little bit into knowledge. The first part of this here, COP model. The first part of the knowledge component of the COP model, which again follows the business planning methodology, is to gather the right information. You need industry and market data that is reliable. You need to know what your NAICS code is. That's the North American Industry Classification System. There's also an international version. I just don't remember what the abbreviation for that is. But the NAICS code will tell you exactly what industry you're in and what your business does and does not do. There are very few businesses that fall under more than one NAICS code. And if they do, they're typically under one tree. So for the sake of argument, NoQuest, which is an academic feedback platform, has the NAICS code 611710. 611 is education, 6117 is education support services, and the last 1 and 0 are, I guess, kind of branches off of that tree. If you have quality sources of reliable information that are not controversial, then the conclusions that you reach, if they are logical, rational, and reasonable, are going to be the same conclusions that the people doing due diligence on your proposal are going to reach. And that's a bonus for you. That demonstrates your ability to do analysis and research, spot opportunities. So the second part is now the analysis. Do a full industry analysis, do a full market analysis. What is an industry or market analysis? Well, I mean, we can just say it's an analysis, but why don't we talk about some of the components that are inside each one of these? You always start with your industry analysis because that's the umbrella that you find your business under. The industry analysis has things like, what industry are you in? So maybe your NAICS code. What industries are you not in? Who are the major players in your industry and why? What is the history of your industry? Where was it? Where is it? And where is it going? What are the trends in the industry? What are the factors affecting change? What are the major technologies? What metrics do they use in that industry? Do they measure it by ton? Is it tons per hour? Is it kilowatt hours? Is it drivers per day? Is it units per transaction? You have to know all that information. For you not to be a subject matter expert in your industry, to then create a business proposal to borrow money is a risk. And it's a risk that people don't pay for. You then have to look for opportunities in your industry, which then dictate which markets you're going to focus on. So your market analysis follows a similar guideline of what the industry analysis requires as well. Who are your markets? So you can do demographics, you can do psychographics. If there's some kind of a new emotional, graphics model out there, you can maybe even try that. But you need to know everything about that market, including the most important component, which I think is the cohorts. Cohorts change over time. And you need to make sure you understand where it is that your cohort is in your target market, for each target market. You need to understand who are the influencers, what are the factors affecting change for your markets as well, and what opportunities lie in your markets. You may not be able to take advantage of every opportunity you spot at the industry and market level, but you need to spot them, because if you miss them, that's not only a potential opportunity that could have worked or might have worked, but it also, again, demonstrates your inability to gather quality information and do analysis. So the last component of the analysis, or the analyze phase of the knowledge part, is opportunity analysis. Now you look at the opportunities both at the industry and market levels, and you start to analyze them as either singular opportunities, opportunities that you can combine, or opportunities that are exclusive or exclude others. Because then you're going to determine which opportunity or mix of opportunities you want to go for, and you're going to explain why. again, the reader should probably come to the same conclusions. They should see the most value in this one in the industry and that one in the market, and they work together, and that's what you should probably go after. So the focus part of knowledge here looks at you need to be able to focus your business proposal on the opportunity. And that's what I mean by focus here. It's value driven in that it's not just an opportunity or combination thereof that you think might work, but that has more value in it. Okay, and I'll probably use the example of the Laserdisc a few times in this webinar. Laserdisc, for those of you who are old enough to remember, came after VHS tapes, but before DVDs. They were these big discs that you had to flip halfway through the movie. They had superior pictures, superior audio. It was generally a better experience, except of course for the big disc. It was a higher value technology, but people did not value it highly. And so it did not take off, and it cost everybody a lot of money, unfortunately. Now they're collectible. So value-driven focus is very important. There's a major component in there that has to do with validation, and we'll talk about that coming up. Again, your conclusions need to be uncontroversial, and you need to demonstrate logic and cogency. In fact, critical thinking skills are not something that humans are born with. Critical thinking skills are something that you have to train and you have to practice. Opportunity, the second part of the COP model. So as we discussed earlier under knowledge, if you spot opportunities at the industry level, if you spot opportunities at the market level, you are necessarily decreasing your risk a certain degree. If those opportunities work together, or you can identify which combinations or individual opportunities that you can take advantage of because they have value, because they are validated, you are necessarily decreasing risk again. It's your job as the CEO, as the entrepreneur, to minimize risk as much as possible, because remember, external circumstances you have no control over. Pandemics, meteors, wars, famine, pestilence, politics, you don't control those things. So as an entrepreneur, you can only really get to 50% before the other 50% starts to have a meaningful effect on the probability of your success. So spot opportunities, analyze them, because the ones that work best for you and your company should be the ones that are the most valued by your customers and the ones that are the most able or highly probable to succeed or to be taken advantage of. Now, opportunity spotting in the industry and the market are external. Opportunity spotting in your marketing, operations, and financing, those three at the bottom there, those are internal. Marketing, operations, and financing are internal plans. What opportunities do you know at the marketing level? Do you have a marketing company that you can work with? Do you have an influencer that you know? Is there some way that you can add value to the business without necessarily throwing money at the problem? Okay. Operations is similar. Do you have an incubator that can give you space like Spark Niagara for a much lower cost than having to pay full rent somewhere? Or maybe you're going to be a pop-up shop and you can cut your utilities or fixed costs significantly. Financing as well. Okay. Spotting opportunities demonstrates your ability to be an excellent entrepreneur, a problem solver, a critical thinker, a researcher, and an analyst. So you're going to then analyze all of these opportunities for their perceived versus monetary value. Let's go back to Laserdisc. Well, the perceived value based on the companies that were producing it was very high. The actual value, which is under validation, which is one unit over to the right here, wasn't very high. The monetary value was very low because not only was it expensive, but people didn't value it. But now that it's on the second-hand or even the new old stock market and it's becoming collectible, that monetary value is going up again. Isn't that interesting? What are the risks versus the reward for each opportunity and each combination of opportunities? Do you want to go after something that is highly scalable? Do you want to go after something that has a high probability of success? What if it's very complicated? Okay, and do you have the internal capabilities to carry out what you need to carry out to take advantage of these opportunities? All of these analyses have to be carried out. Again, you're there to mitigate risk. Now, the last component of opportunity is validation. Validation comes in several forms. You have your primary research, you have your secondary research. You know, if you're selling a new coffee or some beverage, and you're not out testing in random places at random times with random people, you're not doing primary research. And you'll never know if that coffee tastes the way that you want the customers, that the customers want it to taste. Okay. So, you know, it's like the chef that says, I know what people want. You don't know what people want. People know what they want, and let them tell you what they want. Because again, you're mitigating risk. You're not investing in something that's then a sunk cost. It's going to have switching costs for you to switch to what people actually do want. Value validation is going back to Laserdisc. What's the actual value of the Laserdisc? Well, if it's 1990 or 93 or whenever it was, not very high. What's the actual value today? It's going up. People are collecting them. Old Nintendo systems, old tube TVs, they're going up in value. People are collecting them, and they see the value there. With validation, you get more accurate costing and accurate internal capabilities and requirements as well. It's like going through a minor test run of the business before actually spending some real time and money on that business. So validation is a major component of your opportunity part of the COP model. The third part of COP is planning. What are you going to do about all of these opportunities that you've spotted? What are you going to do about what you think is going to make your company a success? And what are you going to do about the potential value that you have in front of you right now? So there are three components to any business. I mean, we've all heard that there's operations, finance, and investing, but this is a different way of looking at it. This is, again, following the business planning methodology, in which there are three components to business in general that are marketing, operations, and finance. Everything else falls under one of these three. Investments falls under finance. It could fall under operations if you're an investment company. IT falls under operations. HR falls under operations. Market research falls under marketing, and so on and so on. So these three areas cover everything that your business can do. And moving from left to right, then your business proposal should follow a logic in the order that these components come in as well. And I'll explain what I mean. Your marketing plan has to have its goals. Well, based on the opportunity, we're going to be selling coffee to people in Canada who love coffee, and you know, the major cohorts are going to the age now where they are more coffee drinkers than they're not coffee drinkers. And the value proposition of our coffee drink, for example, let's say we're a cost leader, it's 50 cents a cup, and the quality is still good enough that it's comparable with Tim Hortons. And we've done our target markets, we've done gap analyses. We're going to talk about our 8 Ps of marketing in our marketing plan. And the 8 Ps, I'm sure I won't remember all of them. There's packaging, people, place, pricing, promotion, physical environment, and I knew I'd forget the last 2. But anyway, some models have 4 Ps of marketing, some have 6 Ps of marketing, some have 7 Ps of marketing. I use 8 because it's just more comprehensive. But you need to basically say that because of my target market, because of what they expect and what they value, and what it is that my product offers, which matches that value, here's how we sell it. Here's where we sell it. Here's how much we sell it for. So that will give you your basic sales forecasts and pro formas or projections. And again, in the marketing plan, they are relatively basic. It's more about what you can achieve rather than analysis of all of your financials. That's in your financial plan. What the marketing plan then concludes in is the operational requirements. What do I need to carry out all of my marketing to sell my product? Okay, to operate the business. Well, what do I have to have? And that's what your operations plan starts with. And so that's, again, why operational requirements here is yellow. Those operational requirements give you the goals for your operations plan. Okay, it's not enough to say we want to run lean, we want to run efficient. These are vague. You got to be specific about running lean or efficient if those are your operational goals. Okay, so your facilities, your fixed costs. I mean, what kind of operations plan are you going to put together that doesn't just demonstrate your ability to critically think about what you need to do to carry out marketing and to foster innovation and to create an environment in which not only people are happy and motivated and it's inclusive, but that vision, that value system can then be communicated to the customer and add more value to your marketing plan as well. So for anybody who doesn't know what a DRASCI matrix is, that's basically the RACI matrix, but with a fewer letters attached to it. The RACI matrix is a responsibility matrix. It basically says for every job at a company, for every task that needs to be performed, who's responsible, who needs to be accountable, who needs to be informed about it, and who needs to consent to it, or I don't remember all of the different, but it's an RACI matrix. You can look it up. DRASCI is just more comprehensive, and again, that's the one I use because it's just might as well be more comprehensive. Your operations plan also should have timelines and milestones built into it, and that again then dictates your financial requirements, because you're going to know in your operations plan how many people you need, how much you're going to pay them, what are your fixed costs, who do you have to pay for what's your turnaround time for ordering products, what are your payment terms with your vendors. That gives you your financial requirements for your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, your income statement, your statement of shareholders' equity, and so on. And that's where your financial plan starts. So I won't go into all the components of the financial plan, but they should include things like detailed projections, your growth, any expansion plans, any investment details for your proposal, the corporate structure. I mean, those are the bare minimum things that have to be in there, okay? Now, a brief point about this planning component as well here. All of these components under planning, marketing, operations, and finance, all of these plans, they're technically separate documents that then come together to become part of your business plan or proposal. You need to spot opportunities at each one of these as well. If you're not spotting opportunities at your marketing, operations, or financial level, you are either not very good at opportunity spotting, and that's a big risk for your investors. It speaks to your ability as an entrepreneur or analyst or researcher or all the above. And you're necessarily increasing risk. Where there is opportunity, there is a potential to decrease risk if you choose the right ones at the right time. Okay, so that's the three components of the COP model. Why would you do business planning though? I mean, if you're writing a proposal that's going to be 5 pages, why would you write a 175-page business plan? Well, first of all, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. And I don't want to see startups fail myself. I know that 4 out of 5 startups fail in 5 years anyway. And the majority of them are failing because they don't do planning. Now, that doesn't mean that if they were to have just completed a plan that they would have succeeded. Not at all. There's only so much room in the world for success. There's only so much money in the world. Not everybody can be a vice president. There's not that many vice president roles out there. And in the same way, there's not that much room for startups to be successful. So the 4 out of 5 businesses that fail, startups that fail in 5 years, if they all carried out a proper business plan, the majority of them, I would argue 3 out of 4 of them, would see at some point in that planning phase that what they thought was a good opportunity was just a good idea and not an opportunity, and that they should not carry forward. They should walk away, okay? It's critical to know whether or not something is a good idea or it's a good opportunity. Opportunities are validated, ideas are not, okay? So do you want to be able to better diagnose your business, an industry, a market, and find some meaningful solutions? Do you want to have a better HR plan? Well, you need a good operations plan for that. If you want to have the right value system for your company to support the HR plan, well, then you need to have a good marketing plan that has your mission, vision, and values in there, made clear, based on something real and sincere. If you want to more easily communicate your business proposal, well, it's better to have the 175-page version first and pick and choose and make executive summaries out of sections and put it into a 4-page summary and hand it to someone. Because then if they ask a specific question about and ask for details, you can pull it up. You have the answer, it's already there for you, okay? You look more prepared. You become a subject matter expert in your industry and your markets, and that's critical. You want to be the subject matter expert in your industry and markets, otherwise you should not be running that business, okay? You're just throwing the dice otherwise. And if you do planning, you can create better value propositions. Now, in general, as a brief summary of what we just talked about, using either a business planning methodology, which is much more comprehensive, or this COP model that I've developed, You are, again, demonstrating your value as an entrepreneur. You are demonstrating your ability to do the hard work, and you're demonstrating your ability to do the boring work. It's a lot more fun and often more easy to pick up the phone and talk to people and develop relationships and create teams and go out and try stuff. And if you really love life and you're positive, you can go out and test any product anywhere, anytime. Good for you. But sitting in front of a computer all day and looking up NAICS codes and looking up industry reports and going on Google Scholar, these are not fun, and they're not sexy, and they're not something that catches on. But you absolutely have to do them, because you will not be successful. Remember, 1 in 5 is the only success rate. You will not be successful doing all of those fun things if you don't have the knowledge and the experience to back it up. If you don't know what you're talking about, if you're not a subject matter expert, then you are necessarily inviting risk. So decrease your risk, spot more opportunities, laser focused, don't waste money, prepare better proposals with higher chances of success, of being picked up. That's what a COP or a business planning methodology is for. Now, I'm going to open up the questions for anybody who wants to ask me any questions about this. I thank you all very much. It has been an absolute pleasure to put this together. If anybody wants more information about either the COP model, the business planning methodology, our consulting firm, or our academic feedback platform, my information is here. I'll leave it up on the screen. Rahi.ca takes you straight to my LinkedIn page. I encourage everyone to reach out and connect with me. And thebigleaf.com is just our consulting firm. So do we have any questions, Nicole?
Oh, wow. I'm just, there was, so before this whole thing started, I used the word plethora, and you said you weren't sure if you provided a plethora. Well, I must say, I feel like I've just had a plethora of information. So thank you so much, Rahi. This has been great. And you know what I think I really appreciated is the raw truth in what you had to say. You know, as entrepreneurs, we tend to, like, we dream big. And so, you know, you tend to live in that dream world, and you see, you're a visionary. So you see the success and where it can go. But you tend to ignore the hard realities, and you definitely made those points very real and very true. And I really appreciate that very much. As an entrepreneur myself, and I'm sure for everybody who's been in attendance today. So thank you so much for doing that.
That's absolutely my pleasure. And as a quick takeaway, my own personal definition of entrepreneur involves necessarily the goal to scale a business. There are too many businesses out there that are content with being small, and that's fine. If you are running a restaurant, a grocery store, a service providing company, and you grow it to, I don't know, even 100 people, 200 people, that's great. You are an excellent, excellent business owner, leader, manager. But if you're not focusing on scale, then you're not in entrepreneurship, and it's a different mindset. It's a risk aversion mindset. It's an efficiency maximization mindset, where entrepreneurs, as you say, they dream big. They want the sky is the limit. And so they have to think differently. Every opportunity that they go and vet to make sure it's a real opportunity, they always have to consider, does this scale? Can this grow? Is there a high probability of this happening? Or am I just dreaming and I'm going to be stuck with that one grocery store? You know, 7-Eleven good, mom and pop grocery store, not for an entrepreneur.
I definitely agree. Now, we do have somebody who is thanking for all the information and wondered if it's possible to have the notes or your PowerPoint made available to them.
Yes, I will be making a copy of this available. If you like, I will send it off to Nicole, and then she can send it to you guys individually. Or if you want, again, just reach out on LinkedIn. If you hit rahi.ca, it goes right to my LinkedIn profile. And if you ask me there, I can send it to you there as well.
Okay, perfect. Now the floor is open to anybody who's here and in attendance. Now is the time to ask the question to a true expert in this entire field, and I would, love to see what kind of questions you have. So while we're waiting for people to ask their questions, I just need to, I guess, clarify something. Because when you were talking about writing a business business plan, which we had a few weeks ago, we had a whole webinar on writing a business plan. You threw the number 175 pages of a business plan. Now, I have to tell you, that that sounds like such a daunting task. I mean, writing a business plan is daunting to begin with, but 175 pages seems so big, especially if you're just a startup. That seems
Well,
like...
yes and no. So let's look at it from a practical point of view, because it sounds like somebody sat in front of a typewriter with a lot of gin and cigarettes and just started typing 175 pages. Not at all. The way that it works more often than not, and it's actually a human behavior thing, it's not an entrepreneurial thing. Small changes in human behavior have a higher chance of sticking. Big changes in human behavior typically don't last very long. For the individual, on average, 19 times out of 20. So if you as an entrepreneur have an idea about something, let's say again, coffee, you are then, in my opinion, going to keep your day job, but spend a half an hour a day as a hobby doing research on your industry, writing point form notes, keeping a record of every source. Then at the end of a month, maybe, you can start taking all of those different points and creating a story. What does this tell you? You will find that by the end of 2, maybe 3 months, you actually have 25 pages on your industry. And a 25-page industry analysis is actually not that long. It's kind of short, because you have to think about things like, if I'm going to talk about the major players of my industry, and for coffee, let's say it's Tim Hortons or Juan Valdez or whomever, then I have to then discuss what makes them strong, where do they come from, where are they going, what do they do, what do they not do, okay? Because your opportunities are going to always have to fall within a high probability of occurring, and if you don't know anything about your competitors, then you're necessarily increasing risk. So again, let's say I'm a startup in bottling and I want to sell some peppery sugar water. Well, there's Coke and Pepsi and you, and guess what's going to happen to you? You're not going to succeed. That's what's going to happen. So 175 pages isn't that much when you break it down into all the 5 basic documents: industry analysis, market analysis, marketing plan, operation plan, financial plan. Maybe in between you can throw in an opportunity analysis. It really isn't very long. What can make a business plan extremely tedious is that it has to be updated, and you should be updating it twice a year. And so I would strongly recommend anybody who's not using a business plan externally, keep it in point form, but move things around so that they make sense logically. That if you wanted to make a paragraph out of these 10 points, you could make it in 2 minutes. You've already had it done for you. You just don't want to waste your time writing it out, because then it's going to be a lot easier for you to even communicate ideas to people. You want to save time. That's what entrepreneurship is all about: saving time, saving energy, saving money. And God help you if you have to pivot and you've wasted time on too long of a business plan, then you're really in for it. So the last thing I'll say, and I'm sorry it's a long-winded answer, the last thing I'll say is, as you're going through writing a longer and longer version of your plan, you are also saying to yourself that I am more confident in this business today than I was yesterday. And therefore it's worth me putting that time into making a longer plan. Okay. The details of the plan may change, but the business and the opportunity are still sound. And that's the most important part.
Okay. Twice a year, right?
Twice a year, minimum, Frank. If I was a shareholder, I'd be saying monthly.
Okay. Well, wow. That's, yeah, I'm in the process of writing a business plan, and I got to say, it's my least favorite activity in the whole wide world, but I know it's a necessary evil if you want to be.
You just won't raise money without it. And so let's say it's the greatest idea, the best opportunity in the world, you're still not going to raise money without it. I mean, there's a chance if you know somebody who knows somebody, if you have a a Bush or a Clinton on your board, okay, you have a much higher chance. But most of us don't. And most of us don't have 12 million bucks for a Super Bowl ad or something. So yeah, you can throw money at problems and often they'll go away, but that's not very entrepreneurial. So you need the right plan.
Yep, it seems like it. So it doesn't look like anybody's been writing any questions. I don't see anything. If anybody wants to actually ask a question, you are able to unmute yourself. We will be okay with that. I just don't want to see anybody go away without asking their questions, you know, and then wondering after if they probably should have. So we'll just give you a few more minutes. I do have to say, I like this concept and the idea that you need to be a subject matter expert in whatever it is that you're doing.
Imagine you're carrying out conversations with industry leaders or investors that are in your industry, and you don't know what the metrics are. Does Coca-Cola measure their success by milliliter? Do they measure their success by milliliter per capita in a like, I don't know what the metrics are. I haven't done an industry analysis. And if I go and talk to the CEO of Coca-Cola, hoping to strike up a conversation or a deal or get something out of the guy or girl, that's not good. That means that you haven't done your homework and that you don't know the very basic way to measure success in your industry. And that's just not a good reflection of a great entrepreneur. So somebody has come online. Hello.
Hey, this is Ankit here.
Hi, Ankit.
First of all, thank you so much for that amazing presentation. It was very inspiring and very informative, and it made me think a lot of things while I was listening. So that's always a great thing. I know you mentioned something about growth, which is more of a entrepreneurial mindset. I just had a question about how do you manage, or do you have any tips on making a sustainable growth, or does it go back to the core fundamentals that you know your market and opportunity and accordingly you grow yourself?
That's correct. The market should pull your company to grow. The only situation in which a push driven growth is advisable is if it gives you a necessary competitive advantage. Otherwise, you are inviting risk. So let's say there's no pull demand for me to sell my innovative milk, I don't know, store to store, but I have some innovative milk and people just don't know about it. That there's no pull that I can then point to and say people want this for sure. And maybe even the market research that I carried out, the statistical sample isn't large enough for me to infer on a population. Okay, what I can do is try a push model with maybe some distributors that believe in what I'm doing. So there's some relationship that we've built, or maybe a distributor that goes after a market that I had not yet considered. And so then in that sense, the push model might work, but it is necessarily more risky. Only the customer knows what they want. Entrepreneurs can only do research. I was going to say guess, but they should be doing their research. They should be doing their homework. They should be relatively confident in their answer as to what, I mean, we're not all statisticians. I get that. But at the end of the day, you'd be surprised how much you can learn on YouTube. It sounds silly, how much you can learn on YouTube. It's actually enough to get you to go in the right direction, to then get better information on how to qualify ideas, opportunities. Am I going to grow? Am I going to shrink? Do I shift? Do I pivot? But in general, yeah, it should be pull. In very, very rare instances, it's a push.
Okay. Thank you.
Rahi, we do have a question here from Ingrid. Her question is, I hear what we need to do, but how can we write a successful business plan? In other words, we can research, but not overdo it if we need to update reports twice a year?
Yes. So this is a very, very complicated answer. So I'll give you two answers. One answer is for the scenario in which you are going to be spending a lot of time doing things on your own or with a very small team. And the other scenario is in which you can gather a team together relatively quickly to start carrying out operations, okay? So scenario number one, it's mostly just you. If you find you're spending too much time writing the plan, you're either in a very early stage, and that's okay, or if you're 1 year into it and you're still writing that plan, then you have probably lost your way somewhere along the way. Either it means that you don't know how to carry out an industry or market analysis, and most of us don't. You have to go to school for that, frankly, or talk to a consultant or somebody who knows what they're doing, or you're learning it on your own, which is very difficult and time consuming, but very understandable. Or again, you're missing something. Are you just updating yourself daily, or are you actually adding real new knowledge every day? So you do have to kind of think about how much time you're spending writing that plan. But the updating part of your question is the more important one, I think. Let's say you spend some time, you write a 100-page plan, and you have to update it every 6 months. Well, the better plans, so that each version of your plan moving forward will need to be updated less as you move on, okay? Because you will have seen volatility in your industry and your market moving forward by the third draft, let's say, okay? So a year and a half into your business. It's that first draft that has to have the most changes in the second version versus second to three to four, 5 to 6, and so on. Because then there's more volatility in your information. There are more things that you are not sure of that you will then be sure of later. So there is that too. But that's okay, so there is that. And I will say, please do not revert to things like business model canvas and value proposition canvas as a substitute for a plan. They're not substitutes for plan. Neither is a SWOT, neither is PESTLE. These are not substitutes for plans. What they're supposed to do is take lots of information, maybe from a 175-page plan, and put it into 1 page and tell you some stuff, okay? That's great. It's great for that because it consolidates information that's valid. But if you're going to use it as a substitute, you now necessarily don't have that information. You're assuming, you're guessing, you are hoping, you're dreaming, and it's a fun exercise. You do it in boot camps and stuff, but it's not business, okay? It's a game, frankly. So if you're going to use it as a summary tool, great. Otherwise, they're not substitutes. Now, if you have a team around you, then it's probably your job as the entrepreneur to keep that thing updated. Remember, the CEO that runs the greatest company is the one who knows how to get around him or her the best people. You should be the weakest link in your chain. The business should run whether you're there or not. The employee should do all of their work better than you could have done their work. That means you chose the right people, and that you are the reason why they're there, but you are not the reason why the business can operate. You've set the vision, you've made the plan, you've created all of the infrastructure to carry it out. Now you let it go and it starts, okay? We don't have deists in the world anymore, but that's what deists used to believe about God. They thought he was perfect, and so he would just kind of make the perfect watch and go. And it is what it is. Now, obviously, as an entrepreneur, you're not a God, or a deist probably, but what you can do is tinker along the way, okay? So closer to theism, you tinker along the way, and the act of updating the plan along the way is what helps you decide what needs tinkering. So now you're not managing daily operations. You're not managing HR problems. You're managing whether or not you need to make changes in your strategy, in your marketing plan, your operations plan. Are there problems that you need to diagnose in the company? A business plan, because it's a logical argument, helps you diagnose your problems more quickly than any other tool out there. It immediately tells you where the problem is. Jim doesn't like Nancy. Well, that's an HR issue. What's your operations plan say about HR issues? Well, we don't have, a conflict resolution charter. Okay. Is it not built into your values in the marketing plan that you should have one? I mean, does it not reflect the idea? No, it doesn't. Well, maybe it should. There's your problem. Change your values to reflect that you should love and cherish your employees, and everyone should trust and be kind to one another. Okay. Reciprocal altruism. And then make the necessary changes in your HR plan for conflict resolution under your operations plan, and you're on your way. Next problem, okay? So then when you have to fire Jim or Nancy or whoever it was, because they still don't like Jim or Nancy or whoever they are, you have something to go on. Well, we have the HR plan. It's in your employment agreement. Here's your job description. And, We've already asked you twice. It doesn't follow our value system, and so on. Now, ideally in HR, when you fire someone, you don't give them a reason. But again, if it comes to it, then you have it. It's there built in for you. You don't have to worry about it. Excellent managers don't worry about stuff like this. Excellent managers worry about direction. Where are we going? What are we really doing? Okay. So I hope that answers. I know, again, long-winded, but again, there's lots of scenarios where you have to wonder, do I spend more time doing research, or as a CEO, or do I spend more time running the company? Ideally, you want to be in this position here where the company runs itself.
Okay, that's a great answer. We do have another question. Vi is asking, with 175 pages of business plan, see, you threw that with everybody. Typically, how many pages should a business proposal be? So
the plan has 5 documents, maybe 6. That means each document should have an executive summary. So your business proposal, let's say at the most, can be something like, so ignore title pages and table of contents, forget all that. So your business proposal at most can be those 6 executive summaries from your business plan plus a 1-page proposal. Okay. If your business proposal is more than 7 pages, you're probably in an extremely complicated business, or you're too wordy. It's too wordy. One of the better skills of an entrepreneur is communication. And one of the better skills in communication, in English at least, is to précis things. It's spelled P-R-E-C-I-S. That means to cut down without losing any of the information. Fewer words, unlike my webinar today. Fewer words, more meaning. Okay, it's because when it's another skill that you're demonstrating as an entrepreneur. Makes your marketer's jobs a lot easier as well.
Okay, perfect. Are there any other questions from anybody? Whether you write it or you unmute yourself, we're happy to, well, not we, Rahi is happy to answer those questions, because you don't want my answers. I am not the expert.
Yeah, I had a question there. Sorry I came late. I kind of think I missed a little bit there in the beginning. But when you talked about push and pull, there's like a demand. At what point does a startup focus on marketing to get more of that user base, to get that feedback from them? Like, for example, my company, we have a small user base. Yeah, we have some feedback, but a lot of our marketing plan is kind of, I guess we're still guessing what they want, just because we don't have a huge market yet. So at what point would you suggest doing some marketing and get people to like realize that you're there? Like the
For
products.
Awareness is probably the most difficult part of marketing, and it's probably the most visible part of marketing. Every ad I've ever seen on television, radio, or billboards is there to create awareness and not to sell a product or a service necessarily. And I find the best ones do exactly that. The ones where my friends say, "What the hell was that? Did you see that yogurt commercial? What was that?" I said, "Well, it got your awareness, didn't it? You'll never forget, will you?" Right? Whether or not you buy the product is irrelevant. They're targeting their target market. So creating awareness is still the most difficult thing, because again, you're competing with excellent marketers out there. Okay, excellent marketers. Well, without knowing what your industry is and what's normal in your industry for smaller companies to create awareness, so there is that, like best practices, what do people do and where do they create awareness and what does it cost? You can try a traction plan. Traction plans typically are for right after creating awareness, although they can include creating awareness. And the easiest traction plan I've come across for just picking it up and using it right away is called the bullseye method of traction planning, where basically it says, look, let's look at all the 19 or 20 different kind of channels for traction that there are, whether it's email, word of mouth, PR, unconventional PR, et cetera, and drop them into 1 of 3 categories of probability: low probability, high probability, medium probability. Then we're going to start analyzing to see which one of these work well together. Okay, I'll give you an example to see exactly, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And based on that, you're going to come up with this traction plan of what you're going to try, and you're going to try a couple of different combinations to see what kind of feedback you get. And it's supposed to be run lean because you want to minimize your cost. So I'll give you an example. You might find that unconventional PR, so contests with prizes, okay, or maybe stunts of some kind, mixed with emails and word of mouth in your industry, get the greatest traction in general for small companies, maybe medium companies, okay? Well, then I guess you're going to have to be putting on a contest of some kind or some kind of a stunt, aren't you? You're going to have to create something that, you know, doesn't go against the expectations and all these other kind of ethical things and whatever. But the traction, the bullseye method has told you that if you can put on this stunt or put on a contest or have prizes and use both email and word of mouth to get the message out there, that's probably your highest chance of success. But that doesn't mean you're going to ignore the ones that have lower chances of success. You're just going to spend less time and money on them. That's all. So the bullseye method is very interesting. What I would suggest is if you have several people on your team that you feel they have industry and market knowledge, let them each do it themselves. All three of you, all five of you do it on your own, then get together and start comparing notes, because then you might come up with even more creative and innovative ways. The last thing I'm going to mention is that as an entrepreneur, to create awareness, you should be thinking of innovation. And there are three kinds of innovation. If you look online, they have some models with 4. I don't like those models. They're bound by market and technology on XY axes. You shouldn't be putting on horse blinders when looking at innovation. Innovation, there's iterative, disruptive, and discontinuous. Iterative is the smallest one. It is a minor improvement in something. So you can imagine the keyboard on your MacBook getting a little bit better year over year, or maybe. That's an iterative innovation. It's expected, it's low cost, it's low risk, it's low value. And if you don't have it, people will not like it. But if you do have it, they will expect it, okay? It is also the most common one. And for marketing, for awareness, you're probably looking at iterative, okay? Some minor improvement in some innovation. The second one is disruptive. This changes the way that your customers do something with you or with whatever the product or the service. This is more risky. It is less common. It is more costly. And you have a higher chance of them not valuing this potentially higher value thing that you're doing, okay? Remember Laserdisc. It was a high value product that nobody valued highly. So disruptive, again, changes the way you do it. Maybe if you're buying music, instead of going to the store, you buy individual songs online. That's disruptive. The last one is discontinuous. This changes everything about your business. Let's think about the Sony Walkman. Before the Sony Walkman with portable tapes came out, nobody was thinking about portable music that was custom. They had portable radios, that was good enough. If you said, do you want some custom music that's portable, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. But the day that Sony came out with that Walkman, they didn't just disrupt the industry, it was discontinuous, because now your supply chain changes going up. You need to have tape manufacturers, stores to buy tapes, people recording on tapes. It changes everything. It's the most risky, the most value added. It is the least likely to succeed. And it is also the most likely that people will not value it. Okay, I'm looking at Microsoft Zune, for example. It was kind of discontinuous, but at the same time, people really didn't want it. Neil Young came out with his own music player that was very high end, and you had to have special files for it to really sound properly, and your headphone jack had to be the bigger headphone jack. People didn't want it. Okay, that was a push rather than a pull. So it's a complicated answer, but what I would strongly recommend is when you're doing your bullseye method of traction planning, be extremely lean and try different things on small scales and try them randomly. Because if it's probably working randomly, you're probably on the right track. Last one, I swear, is the best advice I ever give entrepreneurs. If your plan looks good with a very skeptical outlook, you're on the right track. If your plan looks good only with a positive outlook, you're on the wrong track. That's for Walt Disney movies, okay? Everybody's happily ever after in a Walt Disney movie. But in real life, 4 out of 5 businesses fail. And much like viruses and mosquitoes, failure doesn't care who you are. It'll come and haunt you. So I wish everyone the best with what you're doing. But if you want to mitigate risk, start picking up things like the business planning methodology, even this COP model, anything to mitigate risk. Sorry for the long-winded answers. I apologize.
No, that was excellent. That's a great way to end this webinar. So thank you so much, Rahi, for everything.